You've got attorneys paying $10, $20, $30, $50 a click just to show up in the top of the search results. Let's say you're spending $1,000 a month on a pay-per-click campaign and getting one sale. To double your income, you could spend $2,000 next month and get 2 sales, or you could increase your conversions by just 1% and get the extra sale that way. One way doubles your budget and the other leaves everything the same. And when you start looking at conversions, nothing affects conversions like web page speed. Amazon said for every 100 millisecond improvement in load times, they saw a 1% increase in sales. Moby said it was 1.11% for every 100 milliseconds. And Walmart said it was 2% per second. Cook said they increased sales by 7% for every 850 millisecond improvement. And Google thought it was important enough to add a ranking penalty to their algorithm, penalizing sites that take more than 2.5 seconds to fully load. And they even built a tool to show designers and developers their problems and how to fix them. So the number one goal of every web developer should be to build websites that get 100% across the board on Google's Lighthouse tool. But they don't. Nobody cares about that. But not only do they not do that, but they claim it's impossible. So here's a website that gets 100% across the board, and this is where you should be starting as a web developer. And Google will also limit how often and how deep they crawl your site if your first content paint isn't under a second. This means you can be adding as many pages as you want to Google, and if they're not getting indexed, it's because your website is too slow for Google to index the pages. So not only are attorneys losing money because their websites are too slow, take too long to load, and have penalties on them, but they're also not ADA compliant. If a website's not ADA compliant, you can get a $50,000 fine from the government per incident. That's the American with Disabilities Act, ADA. And while launching and building websites can be expensive, a piece of crap website can cost you $5,000 or more. But fines and lawsuits can run you $100,000 or more, and you can get sued over and over again until you fix the site. And we know attorneys are willing to spend the money to have it done correctly.
My final tip is you're going to have to spend real money on this, okay? You can go online and get a template and put a website up for $20, fine. If you're not spending $10,000 at minimum on your web developer, you're not spending enough money.
According to the attorneys, a good starting price is $10,000. And in addition to the website not being ADA compliant and allowing you to get sued and fined over and over again, you're also turning away millions of people with disabilities. And we've got tools to check and make sure the websites are ADA compliant, but web developers still don't use them. And because there are no clear guidelines for the American with Disabilities Act when it comes to websites, the standard is to make sure the websites are W3C valid, that the code is W3C valid. But web developers don't check the code to make sure it's W3C valid. And one mistake can prevent it from working correctly in a device. And that device, if it's a device used for the Americans with Disability Act, for the disability programs, now you can get fined. And if you're a coder and someone says, hey, what makes good code? Then you have to say the quality of the code. And the way you establish the quality of the code is that it meets all the standards and doesn't have any errors. The way you find errors is by validating the code. And if you can't validate the code, how can the developer be sure they didn't forget to close the tag? Professional coders write code that meets all the standards and validates. You've got attorneys paying top dollar for websites that are full of loading penalties, aren't ADA compliant, and don't have valid code. Seems to me that these web developers have left the door wide open for someone to stop all the BS and come in and do it correctly.